90s hip hop didn't just influence music, it also influenced relationships, possibly even your current relationships, in the state of the toxicity of relationships as they exist today. In order to solve a problem, you have to figure out where it came from. So I'm going to use my age as well as my experience growing up in Newark, New Jersey, being a straight hip hop head, spitting for like 30 years, making beats, so on and so forth. I'm going to give you my observation of how things morph to where it's at now, where you have women, they just playing dudes out, don't care. It's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins. Where did this come from? What's the source of it? Okay. Now, interestingly, I remember one time I was washing clothes in East Orange, and I used to do it frequently, and I knew the owner, who was a Korean guy. And he made an interesting statement to me before, which I've heard before, but it says that when it comes to a community, and regardless of what shape it's in, you can't blame the women. Now, the source of the problem may not be the women. The women may take the baton and run with it, but at the end of the day, the source of a problem of any community is the men. You have to accept responsibility for this. Now, notice this. Adam and Eve, they said that even if you don't agree with this stuff, it's still a story that's popular, that people know. So just entertain me. So when it came to Adam and Eve, Eve, she was thoroughly received. She was thoroughly deceived by the devil. She was thoroughly deceived. So when she brung the fruit to Adam, Adam knew it was wrong. So he disobeyed God, decided to do his own thing because he had more love for his woman than he did God. And after he ate from the fruit, you know what he did? He blamed the woman. What he should have did, he should have said, you know what? God told us not to eat from this fruit. I don't know why you did. No, this is no good. And he should have been, all right, God, this is what Eve did, yada, yada, yada. But instead, he ate the fruit because his wife gave it to him. And then he went to blame her. You can't blame women in your community for how the community turns out. Now, let's go back to the 90s. 7th and 8th grade I was in, and that was at the time where NWA came out. Now, at that time, hip-hop was predominantly East Coast, pro-black, or the songs that was being written wasn't written for women. It was written for pretty much dudes, the dude community. Hip hop back then was very tribal. It makes me think of back in the day before technology, in a town or a village. Once the day's work was over, the men would congregate. The heads, the elders of the community would congregate amongst men and hang out and discuss business, friendship, and affairs that's going on in the community. Hip hop was very tribal back then. That's just according to my opinion, because the songs were not made for women. They was made for the cipher. They was made for battling dudes. It was, but during the 90s, hip hop started to change. First, it got gangster because of NWA. That's when Nas, Biggie, Black Moon, Mobb Deep came out. It was gangster for a little while, but within that little while, it shifted. It shifted to the players. This is how players play. That's more like Biggie. All right, I'm a gangster, but at the same time, I'm a ladies' man. I know about the Versace, so on and so forth, champagne. I can impress the women, and at the same time, I can Swiss cheese your car if I wanted to. Okay, so Pac told Biggie, I believe this is recorded. He told Biggie that if you want to make money, you have to make songs for women, not the dudes. Dudes don't buy albums. Women do. Now, Pac came out with a song back then. He said, and the song was "I Get Around." And in that song, he said, "I only got one night in town. Break out and be clown. Baby girl, are you down? I get around." I'm going to say that again. I probably didn't say it in the right order, but he said, "Only got one night in town. Break out and be clown. Baby girl, are you down? I get around." This was the player angle. He's making a song for the women. But he's pretty much saying, look, I don't have all night to be kicking game. You know what I'm here for. You know what I'm about. Either you're going in the motel or you're not. That's what the song was about. Now imagine you have that song, you have Pac fans, and what do you, and obviously that's going to attract a certain type of woman to obviously his shows, right? Now, Pac told Biggie, you have to make songs for the women. And that's what he started to do. Puffy got smart, so did Biggie. And they was the first ones to take a step out of that gangster, and they started to go for the players. Once they started to make money with that, other rappers begin to know that, begin to recognize that. And then you have all these songs talking about women. Everybody had to take that pivot because that's where the money was being made. And this is where the fad was going. That fad has lasted for years. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, I'm just going to use Pac's song as an example. Now, I'm not saying that hip hop is a reason for all problems within our relationships. And I'm not saying that our bad relationships started when hip hop came out. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a large part of the issues that face the African American community, I believe, um, and relationship wise, I believe it started then. Promiscuous. I didn't create the word, but it is a word in a dictionary, and it means just people who just like to have sex around. It's interestingly that we come at a time when people are starting to realize that's not it. These women are telling these young girls about relationships, and they're pretty much ruining them. These young women are starting to realize Auntie don't know what she's talking about. Taking care of these 3 children by myself and being a strong woman, it's not where it's at. You need a man. You need a husband. You need a father of your children. I can't believe my ears that this is being said, that they came to this conclusion, but it's absolutely amazing. They starting to realize this. Why? Because they're talking on these podcasts like they just discovered fire. Dude, if you had any type of religious upbringing, whether you be a Muslim, Christian, Jehovah's Witness, or whatever you are, what they're starting to realize now, we already knew. I already knew this back in 1992. I already knew this back then. And I was in 7th grade. Right? So I'm in 7th grade, and it took them about 30 years to realize what I already knew back then in the community. Why? Because the opposite message was being pushed. It wasn't only being pushed in the hip hop music, but it was also being pushed in R&B music. And it was all in the spirit of only got one night in town, break out and be clown, baby girl, are you down? I get around. These people on these podcasts talking about relationships like they just discovered fire. There are people back then who already knew that for 30 years. Why? Because it talks about it in the Bible. It talks about that in most religions. A man and a woman need the family institution is the foundation institution of every society. Once the family institution breaks down, society as a whole breaks down. And it's multiple people who knew this back in the 90s. But the crowd, the hip hop crowd, the R&B crowd, they're going in the direction of the Sex and the City article that came out, right? All in that direction. And meanwhile, now they figuring it out. Now they just woke up from the champagne hangover, and they realizing, girl, you need a man to raise a family. These young men, and I salute these young men, talking about gangster rap in a negative fashion, talking about these grown men trying to act all gangster. I salute you, young bucks. I salute you. I salute you for saying that, because you had people back then, I being one of them, but I just lived my life. I didn't care what people did, what people said. But you had many young men back then and young women back then who knew this stuff. Why? Because they were taught this from their family about relationships and how it's important to have a mother and a father to raise a child. When you raise children in single parent households, statistically, it's ugly. Most of the people in prison and jail came from single family households. When you raise in a single family household, it's not a guaranteed death sentence, but statistically, you shouldn't do it. So look up the stats, do your homework. So this is my little analysis of how I believe that hip hop had an effect on modern relationships, the toxicity of modern relationships. Okay, I believe it started in the 90s when hip hop shifted from pro-black to gangster rap to the player era. Okay, I believe that's where it started. Music has a powerful effect on a community, right? It's almost like, I'm not gonna say it's magic, but in a sense, it's like a miracle, the effect it can have on people's thinking, so on and so forth. So I salute you, young bucks, for speaking out against this gangster killer nonsense. I salute you guys for waking up and seeing this, the next generation. I salute you, young ladies, for realizing that, look, you should probably have a man in the household because it's better for your children and it's better for yourself, so you won't have to struggle. So I salute you guys. I hope you appreciate the value of this video. Please like, share, comment, let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.